Silver Dollar City in Branson, Missouri is one of the most popular theme parks in the whole United States, boasting some of the best roller coasters, theming, rides, entertainment, and much, much more. And it also has received the world's best theme park award from multiple different companies. So does it live up to the name and the title? Well, I went there over the past year, and I'm going to tell you if it stacks up to the competition. I went to the park for 2 days in July to see if it was true. So grab your favorite sweet treat, a Diet Coke, and let me tell you my review and my experience at Silver Dollar City in Branson, Missouri. Before we get started, make sure you comment down below and join the conversation about your favorite Silver Dollar City ride, memory, or whatever it is there. It could even be food. And if you can't think of anything, just comment your top 3 roller coasters, and I'll even respond to every comment so we can keep the conversation going down in the comments. So let's get into the video. So starting out, we started our journey, our 2-day journey, going to Silver Dollar City with my girlfriend and Melanin Coaster Network, one of the best roller coaster groups I've ever been a part of. So there are some experiences in here that we got to do that usually you don't get to do at the park, so take that with a grain of salt. I'm going to break this video down into multiple categories. Let's first talk about the theming and the atmosphere of Silver Dollar City. The park has a general theme of 1880s Americana in Ozark Village, and the park does this very well and gives the same vibes and atmosphere that you would find at a Disney or Universal park, but it's not over the top. The park is located in Branson, Missouri, and is built into the Ozark Mountains, which provides a beautiful view on most of the rides, especially rides on like Wildfire. They take advantage of that terrain to the next level. I mean, at the top of Wildfire, you look over to Table Rock Lake, and you can see the entire mountain range from there. I'll talk about those experiences in the coaster section, but the park is split into 11 districts: the park entrance, the Main Street, the Homestead Ridge, Midtown Valley Road, the Grand Exposition, Rivertown, Wilson's Farm, Huges Hill Street, and the Fire District. Minus the Fire District, there isn't a huge difference in the actual theming, like if you're going to Magic Kingdom and going through Tomorrowland to Fantasyland, but each district has subtle differences in style, the food, and entertainment. My favorite district by far was the Fire District. It's a very charming area with all the rides perfectly blending and fitting the theme together, especially for the new 2024 Fire in the Hole, but I'll talk about that later. So for overall atmosphere and theming, I'd give the park a 9 out of 10. Next up is the roller coasters, and I know you came here for this, so let's start with the weakest coaster first, and then we'll talk about the other ones later. First, minus the kids' roller coaster, that was Thunderation. Before visiting the park, I was actually pretty hyped up for this roller coaster. It was touted as one of the best Mine Train roller coasters and one of the best family roller coasters in general, and the first half was actually incredibly rough. And yes, it's good intensity, but the intensity transitioned more to roughness, which I didn't like. After the second lift hill, it got noticeably better, but it didn't come out what I thought it was going to be. And it was probably a little bit more hyped up than I thought. I just thought it was average at best. But if they fixed the first half with a little TLC, it'd probably be the best Mine Train roller coaster that isn't Big Thunder at Disney. Now from here on out, the roller coasters I'm not ranking from worst to best. I'm just going to talk about them in general. Let's talk Outlaw Run, the first RMC of the park, and it was a wood topper track one, and it definitely showed. Coming into this ride, it was touted as one of the best RMCs that's ever been made. I don't really think it lived up to the name. It's definitely one of the better RMCs in the lineup, but it also isn't the best. Starting off with the ride, I'm not going to go through the layout of all these rides because it would take forever. But first, there was a noticeable pothole in the first drop, and everybody in the group I rode with was like all 40 people in my group noticed the exact same thing, so it wasn't just me. There was a slight rattle, but honestly, it didn't take away from the experience, and I really loved the ride, but I couldn't marathon it, if that makes any sense to you. But the 3 inversions were incredible. The ending was great. Obviously, flying into that brake run was something I knew was coming, but it was very enjoyable overall, but it wasn't my favorite RMC I've ever been on. Honestly, I could definitely see them converting this to a full hybrid because it would definitely benefit from it, and I know that they love taking care of their rides. Next up is new for 2024. That's Fire in the Hole, the park's second iteration of the ride, made by RMC, and let me tell you, before even getting on the ride, it's a great experience. The sign out front is beautiful, the flames coming up in the background. I never got to ride the original because this was my first visit, but this one was definitely incredible, and I probably would have liked it even more if I was a local, but I enjoyed it a lot. The journey's fun. You're going on to put out the fire in the city and defeating the Bald Knobbers, which they're a great enemy, and I think they're very fun, and I even got a shirt of them. It was very charming, very smooth, because RMC built it. They spent like $30 million on this, and you could tell where they put the money, where they put the work, because it's definitely one of the best attractions at the park. Just the forewarning, if you're riding the front row, you're going to get soaked. I didn't think I would because I just thought it was a small splashdown, but no, I got soaked. The only thing that threw me off on the ride was something that somebody else pointed out. The animatronics are still and they don't move at all. But overall, I enjoy this ride, and RMC and Silver Dollar City put so much time and effort into it, and it definitely paid off. Next up, going with a roller coaster that is the best setting for a ride I've ever been on, and that's Wildfire, the park's B&M sit-down. One thing I found cool about this ride is actually themed to an inventor, and he was working a flying machine. Then the field he created for it was called Wildfire. So when you leave the station, smoke comes out of you. So I think that's the fuel. Wildfire only clocks in with a 155-foot drop, and it's only like 3,000 feet long, so it's not the longest B&M, but the setting made up for the shortness of the ride, and it was incredibly smooth. This ride is just so re-rideable. There's 5 inversions with an Engelmann loop, a vertical loop, Cobra roll, and much more. All the elements had some good intensity, but not the most, obviously. The best part, though, is the dive into the Ozark Mountains and the overlooking the beautiful lake, and if you're not in the roller coasters, there's a viewing deck you can actually watch your friends go ride on, and it's just a beautiful view of the mountains if you don't even like looking at roller coasters. Next up is the only launch roller coaster at the park. That was Powder Keg, the S&S launch coaster that was a former water ride. This was converted from Buzzsaw Falls, and you can tell it's converted, but the ride is just so much fun and so unique. It has some good pops of airtime. The launch is like only 50-ish miles per hour in 2.8 seconds, but it's very punchy, and honestly, I thought it was pretty intense for just 53 miles per hour. After the launch, you'll have some good moments of airtime, then you'll go to the middle of the ride with the other chain lift, which is really unique because it was converted from the water ride. Then you'll finish the ride with a pretty large helix. I thought it was pretty good, nothing too special, but it definitely was one of the better rides. And lastly is Time Traveler, one of my favorite roller coasters that I've ever rode in my life. It definitely was hyped up before I got there. It was my first mock extreme spinner, and it did live up to the hype. I got over 10 rides on the rides I was there. We got some ERT, and we even got an exclusive behind-the-scenes tour of Time Traveler, which I'm so grateful for. So thank you, Silver Dollar City, for that. And this ride is just so crazy. From the front row to the middle rows to the back row, you can have multiple combinations, thousands of different combinations on the ride. My favorite was the back row ride when you get pulled down sideways or backwards because that drop out of the station is just very intense in the back row. And riding this ride, like I said, you have thousands of combinations, so you'll never have the same ride. The launches were great, the inversions were nice and punchy, and they were snappy in some of the transitions if you were in a sideways seat, in sideways position. But this ride truly is one of the best roller coasters I've ever rode in my life. It lives up to the hype. But also seeing this behind the scenes of the ride and getting the ERT was just something that we usually wouldn't be able to do if you were a regular park goer. So thank you again to Mellon and Coaster Network and Silver Dollar City. It was just so much fun. Overall, for the roller coasters, I give the park an 8.5 out of 10. Next up is dark rides, flat rides, family rides, and experiences all lumped together. And let's talk about Marvel Cave, the thing that started the entire park. Our group of the enthusiasts went down into the cave by themselves, and we got a behind the scenes and kind of a specialized tour of the cave. And this was just insanely cool and beautiful, and the most unique thing you can really do at a theme park. If you're going to Silver Dollar City, make sure you book your reservation. It's free to do this, and even if you do the lantern tour, it's like $15, but I highly recommend doing it, and it's just so unique. You will definitely be walking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stairs, going over crevices, going under things, ducking under things, and it's pretty sketchy down there. It's very slippery, but the views are just immaculate, and you cannot miss this. I just mentioned it, but I also want to mention it again, but we did the behind-the-scenes tour of Time Traveler, which was just incredible, so it's another experience. We'll go quick fire on the rides. So American Plunge, one of the classic log flume rides, it goes through the mountains and the hills and the foliage there. It is a beautiful ride. It's a fun ride, a good splashdown at the end, and it's just a classic log flume that you can't miss. Next up was Firefall, the park's free-for-all drop tower, and it's a pretty short ride, but it's a punchy launch up and a good airtime at the top, and it fits perfectly in the Fireman's Landing. Next up was the Silver Dollar City Steam Train, and this was a pretty fun experience, even though the mics weren't working for the actors in the middle scene, which I'm not going to spoil. It happens every ride, but the mics weren't working, so we didn't really get the full experience, but it's okay. And we also saw a fight for somebody fighting over a spot in line because the line was so long, so that's pretty unique that I didn't think I would see at Silver Dollar City. Another experience was Grandfather's Mansion. This is like a funhouse style ride, but it's not a ride. It's just a walkthrough experience, kind of if you go to Kennywood and they have like their Noah's Ark there. But it's just so unique, and some of the rooms are fun to sit in the slanted room where everything's sideways and the gravity's pulling you down. It's just a unique experience, and I highly recommend you going. Please don't skip that. Next up was Mystic River Falls, and I love anything that has the Mystic in the name, so I had to do it. This elevator raft ride is kind of like Infinity Falls at SeaWorld Orlando, but with a few different types of turns. I got some incredible videos going through just the layout of this, so I want to highlight them here while you're watching. I do love the photography and videography that I can do at the parks, so I hope you enjoy. But this was definitely hyped up, and I was really excited for it, and I did only get drenched at the end because I was just getting unlucky with my seat. We also had 4 kids in our train, or our car, and just wasn't a heavy train. But I think the drop is one of the biggest on any raft ride, and then obviously I still like Infinity Falls a little bit better, but this is just a unique attraction, and I love it. And just an honorable mention for the swinging bridge that goes across the park. It's just fun to walk across. It takes a few seconds, but it's really fun. And one of the attractions caught my eye because I love classic dark rides, and that was the Flooded Mine. This is their indoor shooting ride, and it definitely has some character to it, and it's a little bit dated, but it is incredibly fun. As the name implies, you're going through a flooded mine, and the prisoners are trying to escape, but it's like a shooting ride at the same time with some classic scenes with the animatronics. The blasters really don't work as good as I thought they were going to, but it's a pretty old ride, so it's okay. And I just love seeing the scenes, and some of the water scenes and water spouts were just so cool to see on a classic dark ride. I did their S&S Scream and Swing, which is like the barnyard ride. I forget the exact name, and it was a pretty short cycle for an S&S Scream and Swing, but like all the other ones, it's always a good time, and it's usually the most terrifying ride for me of the day because I still feel like I'm going to fly out. And last up was Tom and Huck's River Blast. It was already pouring down rain when we rode this, so we were already drenched, but we got even more drenched because during the ride, there is little like water spouts that you can shoot at the people on the ride, and it definitely gets you even more drenched because they can just lock onto you and you get more drenched. These are such a fun and underrated attraction. I definitely recommend doing them, but like I said, you're going to get drenched. With all the unique attractions and great experiences and the Marvel Cave, you really can't do this at another park. I give it a 9.5 out of 10. Next up is food. For the 2 days that we were there, we really didn't eat at the top restaurants or get any of the skillets, just mainly because we were moving with our group, had a lot of time, and we had scheduled meals that we were going to do, so I really didn't get to experience the full Silver Dollar City food palette. One thing I can tell you for sure is we tried every type of pretzel combination they have at the park, and they were all pretty good. I highly recommend the cinnamon one. That one was incredibly good. We had some classic cinnamon bread that they have at the Herschend parks, and just so good. I can't get over how good this bread is. We had our scheduled meals, so I can't really talk on those. They were just like buffet style, but the food was still really good. And let me give an honorable mention to those Fire in the Hole Dippin' Dots. So flippin' good. I'll definitely have to make it back to Silver Dollar City and try all the food. For right now, I'm going to give the park an 8 out of 10, but it could change in the future up to a 9 or a 10. Let me tell you next about the staff and the operations. I'm going to give the staff a 10 out of 10, kind of like Lost Island. The staff answers every question you have. They're incredibly nice, and they just love doing their job there. Minus the operations, they were running like 1 train on some of the rides or 2, but it's okay because the staff pushed out the trains as fast as they could. And like I said, they answered every question you had, and they were just incredibly helpful. So I had no complaints with them, and they're just so nice. And last up is cost. This is probably the most controversial category, as I posted a video on TikTok talking about my experience at Silver Dollar City, and the main comments were saying how good the park was, but there was a subgroup of people that said that it's steelier Dollar City, and the park is too expensive. Usually it's around $80 to $90 with tax for 1 day at Silver Dollar City. And yes, they only have like 6 roller coasters in the dark ride selection and flat ride selection. They don't have a crap ton of rides, but at the same time, they have shows, they have incredible food, they have incredible theming. And I think it makes up for the price in some aspects, but I can get where people are coming from with the amount of roller coasters. Like if you want to go ride a lot of roller coasters, go to Kings Island, go to Cedar Point, go to Six Flags Park. But there's more quantity at those parks, but not the quality. I do think the park is there for its money, and we had a set price for our group, which was incredibly awesome that we got to do 2 days for the price that we did, which I'm not going to mention. But the only thing that threw me off was with our set price, we asked to see if we could go to the water park at the park and add it onto our ticket, and they said it would be $80 a person to add to offset the cost of the discount we got with our group. And let me remind you, their water park is located in the heart of Branson down the road, and they only have like 6 or 7 water slides, which is incredibly limited and very small. It's not worth $80. And it's usually like $50 on a regular day, but they said it would be $50 if you just went to the gate, which it didn't make a lot of sense to me. But I think it is worth its money. And if you go during the fall events or if you go during the Christmas events, it's even better. So I think it's worth the money. I can see where people are coming from with the lack of roller coaster numbers, but the roller coasters are very high quality, so I think it's worth it. I just want to mention, did not see any shows at the park, which would definitely be really good because they have some high-class talent there. But we did do a boat tour of the Branson Belle on Table Rock Lake. I highly recommend doing that, and you actually book your ticket through Silver Dollar City's website. So yeah, do that. Now let me talk about my final thoughts for Silver Dollar City. Now, is Silver Dollar City the best theme park in the world or the best theme park in America? I would have to say it's one of the best, but I really haven't been to Dollywood or Busch Gardens Williamsburg or parks like that yet. I've been to plenty of parks. I've been to over 40 parks in the United States, but I haven't been to those yet, so I can't say for sure. Now, if you're going to a park for an elite roller coaster lineup, I don't think you're going to find it here. Now, they have Time Traveler, Wildfire is great, and all the other rides are great, but they're not world class. Where the park truly shines is the atmosphere, the operations, and the theming because they put so much time and love and effort into it. And like I said, the operations, the food, the shows, the hospitality, and the theming is what makes Silver Dollar City and unique to itself. I love the park. I will definitely be trying to do a visit like once or twice every other year because it's just so much fun, and I want to go to a Christmas event or a fall event. So at the end of the video, it is a rough time to get there because it's like 3 hours away from a major airport in St. Louis, and I am 10 hours away in Michigan, so it's hard to get there, but I will definitely be back sometimes, and I had an incredible time there. So if you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much, and make sure you subscribe for more videos like this and theme park reviews coming up. I'll have a visit to Canada's Wonderland for the first time coming up, and some reviews from Orlando parks coming up, so make sure you follow along. Thank you again, and ride on.